Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to my Node-RED live stream. An hour or so of Node-RED code core development. First time back after the new year. I had a nice little break away, but running a little late tonight. But here we are, and there's a possibility I may get interrupted by sleepless children to go settle back down. But we'll worry about that if it happens. Let me shut out the night a bit. So do say hi in the chat if you're there. Cliff04, welcome back. Welcome back. I hope everyone had a nice break over the Christmas and New Year period for my regular viewers. I had the joys of testing positive for COVID on Christmas Eve, which meant the 2-week break off for Christmas and New Year spent self-isolating at home with the family and not doing very much. But we're all well now. All is good. And so let's crack on. That's enough about me. What are we up to tonight? Well, been doing a bunch of stuff recently around links, and I seem to remember in the previous stream we did the work to allow you to select multiple links. Since then, I've done a bit more work, and I think I'm in the right branch to show this off. Now, when you select nodes, or select a pair of nodes, we'll now also select the links between them. So as the selection grows, you can see it's also selecting the links between selected nodes, if that makes sense, which I think visually works quite well, just to help you see the flow, help you, if you have a complicated flow with lots of wires crossing everything, then it just helps highlight the path between them and see what's connected, which is quite neat. Indeed. Welcome back, Mauricio. Great to have you back on the live stream. Hope you had a nice break. So what are we up to tonight? Well, there's a few other sort of wiring and node manipulation actions I've been meaning to tackle for a while. And there's one in particular that I wanted to have a go at tonight, which is, let's say, this. Well, no, let's do it this way. We all know you can drag a node on and drop it on a wire to insert it. What we don't have is a way to detach this node. As in, let's say you wanted to undo that dropping on and the splice. You wanted to, which you can do with a Control-Z, of course, but that Control-Z undo only works if the splice was the last thing that happened. So, a case in point, you want, the scenario, for example, you have a subflow here and you want to actually swap it for a different node. Well, to do that today, you'd have to delete it, add the new node, and then repair all the wiring. The problem, of course, is, well, let's say this is a well configured node and you wanted to keep it. So maybe you move that to one side, you drag in your new node, and then you wire it up, and then you delete that so it sort of breaks it. Again, that work. This isn't an impossible problem. It can be worked around. But what I wanted to do was actually have a play with, is there a nice action where, given a selection, to say, I want to detach this node from the flow, but to keep the wire, or repair the wire, as if that node wasn't there. That's what we're going to have a play with. See if we can find something that feels like it works well. So, get my head back in gear. What have we got? We've already got So I'm already in a branch I created before I started streaming called detach action. This is based on it's in the dev branch in Git, but it's actually branched off another branch which has some of the wiring changes. If you have a look at the open pull requests, they're sort of queuing up to get in. So this add multiple links to select by control click, that's the pull request we did on the last live stream in December. On top of that one is the highlight links when selecting nodes. And then the branch we're on now is in fact built on top of this pull request. So let's have a look. What are we going to do? We're going to add a new action. So as I've covered many times in the live stream, everything we do in the editor is built around actions, so named functions that can be triggered, can be bound to a keyboard shortcut, for example. So we're in the Node-RED repository, packages, no modules, at Node-RED, editor client, source, JS, UI, because we are doing some UI stuff. Then probably, because we're doing stuff in the view, it's probably going to be view tools is kind of the place. This is where we get a lot of the set selected, that type of stuff, align nodes. We've done a lot of stuff, a lot of actions in this file already. Aligning, distributing, they're all in there. My only hesitation is, I think what we want to achieve, we can't quite do it from outside of the main view.js, and we'll come to that. So I'm going to actually, although I try not to add new code in here because it is a mammoth file already, in this instance we are going to at least start by adding stuff in here. So find the init function where we just set everything up. Somewhere in here we will be setting up the actions for, there we go. So here's cut, copy and paste. We're going to add a new action in here. Detach selected nodes. Yeah, I'm just, again, I'm not sure that's quite the right name, but we're going to stick with it. Detach selected nodes. And as ever, the reason for doing it as an action, it means the user can then bind whatever keyboard shortcut they want to it. And yeah. So detach selected nodes. So let's now just go, if I go and find copy selection, it kind of makes sense just to co-locate. All right, copy selection, we're just going to introduce it under here, detach selected nodes. Okay, so what do we want to do? Well, I'm just going to switch back to view tools with some of these other functions we've done, just so that I can, oops, if I can find it. I'm going to crib a bunch of this code. So red.view.selection gets our current selected nodes, or the selection objects, and we care if selection.nodes exists. And for the function I've copied it from, we cared if we needed to have more than one node selected. In this instance, we are going to only worry for the moment about a single node selected. I know I've called the action nodes with an S, plural, but just whilst we're figuring out the mechanics of this, we're going to go with this. All right. So we know the node we want to detach is going to be selection.nodes 0. So what does it mean to detach? Let's just talk through exactly what we want to do. One, we want to find all the links attached to this node. Then we want to delete all those links. We then want to do something smart to restore those wires. So if it's, as long as the node is as long as it's got one input, one output, then what we want to do is restore the wiring so that as if that node wasn't there, if that makes sense. Yeah. So let's do this one step at a time. We're going to iterate quite a bit to get this right. Okay, so let's get the links. Now, the reason I'm basing this in this branch is because I know there's a new function exists in this branch that doesn't exist in the others yet. Get node links. So we do inbound links, red.nodes.get node links for our node. Then we check, port type, and we have some constants in this file for inputs and outputs. So that will return all of the links coming to this node's input. Now, I think I've jumped ahead a bit here. What we also want to do is node dot he pauses because he can't quite remember. There is, I'm just trying to remember how we know how many inputs and outputs a node has got. Like I said, I'm rusty on this stuff, so let's have a look at our function node. I'll reduce some and zoom in a little, please. Yeah, I will, of course, not exploit. I will zoom in somewhat in the code. Yes, I realise actually I'm on particularly zoomed out mode at the moment for stuff I've been doing. Right. red.nodes.node. So this is what a function node, this is what a node looks like. Let's make this. So it's got outputs and inputs as top level properties. That's what I thought, but always worth sanity checking. So this whole idea of detaching a node, we're only going to deal with it if it has inputs and outputs. And in this instance, to begin with, we're just going to care about a single output. Not going to entertain multiple outputs yet. Okay. So we have a single node selected. That node has got one input, it's got one output. It's a good candidate for detaching. Inbound links and outbound links both, they exist. So what we can, just to prove to ourselves something's working, what we're going to do is pass that to red.nodes.something, remove link, imaginative. Do the same for outbound links. Right, and let's see, what does that do? So let's work on this node, this subflow. If I bring up the action palette and look for detach selected nodes, I run it and okay, it's not done anything, which is somewhat surprising. So have we fallen in? What's gone wrong here? Let's console.log the node just to see what it thinks we've got selected. Nothing. See, it's not printing anything out in the console. Why is that? It's definitely rebuilding the code in the background. Let's have a look. Okay. Curious. So it is getting somewhere. Nodes, yeah, it's got a node. So this node has got inputs equal to 1, outputs equal to 1. Yeah. Okay, where's the flaw in my logic? Let's log the inbound links and outbound links. Inbound links 0, outbound links 0. Curious. Right. So this get node links expects the first argument to be the ID of the node, not the node itself. I'm for yeah. Okay, that's what the API expects, so let's fix that then. It would be a nicety actually just to add a quick check in here. If type of ID is string, or not equal to string, ID equals ID.id. So if we haven't passed in a string, if we assume we've passed in a node object, and then we extract its ID and carry on. So having done that change, I'm going to continue to pass in just the node. Right, so let's select the node, run our detach action, and so we can see inbound links was 1, outbound links it's length 1. Yep. Nothing has changed, but nothing has changed because I haven't written any code to trigger a redraw. I think if I move this timestamp node, those two links will disappear, which they do. Because by moving that unrelated node, it's triggered a redraw and it's spotted that those links have been removed. Okay. So we're removing the links. I'm just going to remove. Right. What do we want to do next? Well, we need to what do we need to do? So I can see this would get a little messy, but let's not worry about messy for now. Having got, in fact, before we delete, we're going to do some more work on these links. Var, no, we're going to create a, what are we going to do? We want, going to create just thinking through, yeah, we're going to create an array of sources and an array of targets. So, in fact, we will just do this. So for each inbound link, we want to get the source node do we even need to do it? No, sorry, we don't need to do it this way. What we're doing is we delete all those links. We then need to restore the links. Yeah, restore all those other links. So we are going to, for each of the inbound links, we are going to create a new link we need to create a new link to each of the destinations of the outbound links. This is where I say this could get messy when you have lots, when you've got lots of nodes coming, lots of wires both coming into the inputs and coming out again. When you remove this node, you're going to end up with quite the mesh of wires, but so be it. I mean, that's just a consequence of what this action does. So for each inbound link, we need to create a new link with the source of the rename these to be better. So we want the source of the new link to be the same as the source of the inbound link we're dealing with, and the source port. Is it source port? Yes. Link dot source port. I should say, how did I check that? I double clicked on source port, and you can see down the bottom in the footer of Atom, it tells me the term source port occurs 33 times in this file, which, yeah, tells me that's the right variable name. It's the only context we would use it. And then the target is the outlink dot target. And we don't worry about ports because there can only be one input port. So now, yeah, so we'll do all that. Once we've done all that, I'm just going to add a red.view.redraw just to trigger the redraw that we weren't doing automatically before. Okay, so that's rebuilt. Let's reload. So if we run it on this one, detach, nothing appears to have happened. But what we can't tell is, does this wire, has the two wires now been replaced with one wire that just spans underneath? If I remove that node, you can see indeed that's exactly what's happened. I think it would have been more obvious if I take this node and just move it up, and if I run the detach action on it now, okay, yeah, that was interesting. It didn't refresh until I clicked. But either way, we have detached the node from that wire and re-established a wire down the bottom. Well, that works, doesn't it? Okay. So just to demonstrate the crazy case, if I do this, okay, so bit of a mesh, and then if I detach this node, you end up with that, and which is exactly the same net result, as in, you know, every message from each of these nodes ends up to all of these nodes. The downside is you couldn't, unfortunately, I haven't done undo history yet, so I can't just undo. And Cliffo, yeah, the changed. You're right. Yes, it should, and that's on my mental to-do list for us to address in a minute. Adding the change indicator. Although I say that, but we don't actually mark a node as changed when you change its wiring. So maybe we don't do the change notification. Okay, I'm going to not get too hung up on change notifications yet, but something to consider. Yeah. So if you have a scenario here where you wanted to replace this node, the work we're doing isn't going to help you, because by detaching that node, you end up with that mesh of wires. You can't then just drop one in place. So in fact, here, if you wanted to replace that node, you'd have to use the shift click on the port to detach all those wires and move them down, and then shift click to detach all those wires and move them down. So yeah, that's doable. But I think having this detach function, okay, if when you end up with a mesh like that, it doesn't look so good, but you know, if, like this node, if I were to detach it, then, well, it's done the right thing. The wire now loops around back on itself. Anyway, yeah, the basic functionality is there. There is now, well, no, let's do undo history, because the more I want to play with it, the more I want to quickly flip back and forth. So undo history we've covered before on previous videos, but I am just going to go and yeah, what am I going to do? We need to create what do we need to do? We need two things. We need to create an array of all the new links we're about to add. Which means we've got to do this add in 2 steps. So we create a link object, we add it to our list, and then we add it to the world. We do that. Then we know we've deleted all of inbound links and outbound links, so we've got to create a history event. And as ever, I'm trying to remember how to do the history events properly. So we want if new link old links is going to be that inbound links concatenated with inbound and outbound concatenated. So now we can say if old links dot length greater than 0 and new links. Ooh. No, we don't. We only care if old links.length. Is that right? Yeah. Because there is a case where, like, if I were to do the detach on this node, we're going to delete this wire, but obviously there's no new wire to add. So, yeah, it's possible. It is certainly possible we'll have wires to delete. It's not necessarily guaranteed we'll have wires to add. Okay. So if what am I trying to say? Sorry, brain's not quite there yet. So as long as we have some old links, then we'll have something to undo. Because you can't have new links. If there were no old links, there would be no new links. Yeah. So we're going to create a history event. We are creating a multi-event because we are both adding and removing. So we've got our first history event is going to be the remove. Yeah. I can't remember the format for add and remove, so let's just collapse this down. It is a delete event is the one we want. We want to do a delete event, and we need to set the property links. And the links that have been deleted are old links. And then we want a second history event, which is an add, and we've added links. Right, I just want to double check on the add event. So add event, links. We're good. So that will add a history event, which does the delete of the old links, the add of the new links, updates nodes.dirty, and then triggers a redraw. In fact, what we want to do is force a redraw, I think. I think we want, I think we just need to pass a true to that for reasons. Okay. So if I just move that up a bit, and I call our detach function, it's detached it. It's redrawn without me doing any intervention. This node is now free. If I control Z, okay, undo the move I just did, control Z, it undoes the detach, and it's back in place. Yes, that's working. We've got history working. Cliffo, what's going on with the concat old and new? So, so I'm not concatenating old and new. I'm concatenating the list of inbound links and the list of outbound links to give me a single list of all the links we've removed. Yeah, because for the history, I could have added a delete event for inbound links and a delete event for a delete event for inbound and a delete event for outbound, but but why not? Yeah, I haven't. All right, well that is working. So the question is, do we want to think about other use cases? Now, there's something else. there's another part of this which I wanted to have a quick play with. And this is why I'm implementing this inside view.js rather than out in view tools or some other file, because there is another part of this that I wanted to experiment with. So a very typical scenario is people have dead straight flows like this, and they run, if they do this detach, there's absolutely no indication that they've done anything, whereas that node is now detached. I would suggest you want to detach the node in order to move it. So we have a if I export that node and import it, and import a copy, without touching the mouse, we have this ability to attach a node to the mouse, and then you click to place it when you do that initial import. So I'm wondering, and what we're going to do next is, as part of detaching that node from the flow, attach the node we've detached from the flow, attach it to the mouse, so that you can then, you don't click and drag, you just move the mouse and then click to place it. Does that make sense? So how do we do that? How do we do that indeed? What we need to go and find is the import nodes, I think. Yeah, so this is the state we care about. Import dragging. Yeah, Bobby Tables has hit on one of the reasons I paused as I was talking. Spoiler alert, yeah, it's going to be slightly odd, but we'll have a look at that in a minute. Import dragging. Just looking through, do we need to do... Is it as simple as setting the mouse mode to import dragging? I mean, if it is as simple as that, then, well done, everyone. Can it really be? Let's try. So, reload, select the node, detach it. Now if I move the mouse, I'm moving the node. So I can now just place it. It works. Let's try, as you suggest, I'm going to stick the mouse down in this bottom corner. You can see the mouse. You can see my mouse pointer, can't you, on the screen share, can't you? So if I do detach, okay, I've done the detach. Now, yeah. So it's jumped that node down to where my mouse is. But that's where my mouse is. So given we're detaching it in order to place it, that could be all right. What? Okay, just a little rabbit hole of ideas going on in my head at the moment. Yeah, I think this is okay. Now, the reason, I think it's okay. It kind of feels like it makes sense. Yeah. So if I just need to force show it rather than wait for the mouse move, maybe. To be honest, for the moment, I can probably live with that jump. I mean, it might be nice to have a bit more of a visual cue that node is picked up at the moment. But yeah. Okay, the other bit I wanted to think about is now I've got these two nodes selected. We could still arguably do a detach. It would make sense to be able to detach these two nodes as a pair rather than and then restore the wiring end to end and be able to extract these two nodes from the flow. So we've done it we've proved the concept for a single node. What we're now going to do is multiple nodes. Good luck, everyone. Now, this does actually get a little hairy, he says with trepidation. So let's just talk through what we would need to do. For the single node case, we got all of its inputs and all of its outputs. That's easy enough. If you have got more than one node selected, we want to get all the inputs and outputs of each node, but we only want inputs and outputs that are leaving the set of selected nodes. This wire in the middle we don't want to get rid of. We want that wire to stay connected to these two nodes we're detaching. Okay. Now, there's also an interesting case of if I've selected these two nodes and I do a detach. Well, clearly we don't want to cause... we need to be careful not to think, well, here's an input wire, it must connect up here, and we've got to make sure we are doing the right thing. In fact, this... oh man, okay, no, this is... am I already making life far more complicated? I'm just trying to... see, all these scenarios, they kind of make sense for when you have... it's a single row of nodes and you're sort of detaching from the middle of it. When you have something like that, that's not so interesting. Oh yeah, this is the scenario. Let's move this out the way. Right, in fact, let's go tidy this up visually. So when you have something like that, and if you were to detach this middle set of nodes, what should the resultant wiring look like? Well, so So for this one, you can see a message being sent by this inject node could theoretically reach either debug node. So therefore, they would end up connected. But this inject node, it's impossible for this inject node to reach that top debug. So in fact, it would connect to just that debug. So that's the right wiring. So we just need to work out what is that logic for what is the right logic for this? What is the right logic? Right, I'm going to deploy this because I feel this is whatever we implement, we need to get working for that this scenario. In fact, I'm going to, before I try and complicate it, let's just get things working when we select two contiguous nodes. Right. So we want, what do we want to do? So we're only doing this if we've got more than, well, if we've got some nodes selected. What we're going to do is create a set from the array. Because the set lets us do very efficient checks. Is a node part of the selected set or not? Yeah. Then yeah, I'm really sure. So it's not in this branch. I will just share for the rest of this class. There is a draft pull request that does a couple of things. One is playing around with ideas of adding arrowheads to wires, but to be super clear, arrowheads on wires would be something you turn on via editor theme if that's what you want. It wouldn't be on by default, but playing around with changing how ports are displayed on nodes, and as you can see here, if a port is connected, then it has a solid colouring, and if it's disconnected, it has this light grey colouring. And also you can see the ports now would stack behind the node rather than on top of the node. And there's that. So yeah, it's concept playing around with, but purposefully not in the current branch, because it's a bit more contentious, shall we say, than just adding in these actions to try and do interesting things. Okay, it's 10 to 9. Let's see if we can get somewhere quite quickly now. What we want to do is get all of the links related to all of these nodes. Yeah, and that's going to be create a set of that as well. And what we're going to do is selection.nodes.for each. So just as we got the inbound and outbound, just as we got their links before, we are going to yeah. So in fact, we're going to concatenate them straight off, because at this stage we actually just need to we need to filter down the list. We only care about links. Yeah, we only care about links that leave the selection. So if selected nodes.has l.source, or if not that, or not selected nodes.has l.target, so this is a link that either end of it is not part of our selected set, then we can add it to our links. Yep, that makes sense. Okay, so now we've done that, what we want to do is what do we want to do? Okay, I take it. Yeah, no, we still need to keep them separate. All inbound, all outbound. Do we? Yeah, we've got to keep them separate because we need. So these are all inbound links, and if they're inbound links, then we know their target is a selected node by definition. And then we look at the outbound links. We want to look at the target of the outbound link. And if so, we'll add it to all of our outbound links. Okay. Oh man, right. So now we've got a set of all the inbound links. We've got a set of all the outbound links. Do these need to be sets? No, these shouldn't be sets. In fact, making them sets make them, well, needlessly fiddly to work with. So instead of add, we'll push onto some arrays. Now we've done that. Now we have done that, what are we going to do next? We are going to, well, we're going to follow the same pattern here. We are going to you see, we didn't address the multiple node outputs, and we probably should have addressed that logic for yeah, because here we have a switch node that's going to trip us up. Yeah, let's back out what we're, well, just put what we're doing on hold. We're just going to go back to what if node outputs. Do we care about node outputs? Should we care? Because ultimately, all of this yeah, I don't think we care because we do the right work. We do the right thing here. We will set the source. No, source port's irrelevant. Okay, this is where it. Okay, if I detach this guy. Okay, I have. I've mucked up. Yeah. Try again. So that's worked, which is good. Although that was interesting. Yeah, okay, that's another bug. Right, one at a time. What happens here, where I've got two outbound links going to the same destination? What I want to check in here, add link, is, see, there's no checking in add link that you're adding a link that already exists. And if I were to detach this, that's exactly what we'd end up with, because we've got two outbound links going to this node. When we iterate through, we are going to attach that pair twice. Now again, it's a bit of an oddity detaching this node. How useful is it to rewire? You know, if it's like that and I detach this node, it's going to end up wiring this one to both of those. It's not that useful, but it has to do something, or we just don't bother with this feature. So what we're going to do is we need to do the duplicate detection for these links. So we're going to create a created links link IDs, let's call it. This is going to be a set. The link ID we're going to say is the link.source.id colon source port colon target.id. And then we're going to say if not created link. Okay, I've thought of another bug. One at a time though, gentlemen, one at a time. So if we haven't created that link, then we'll create it. So that will stop us adding the same link twice, which is a bit, yeah, because you can't see it, it's hard to know that that's happened. Doesn't help if I typo. Oh yes. Just an ordinary typo. So if I detach, that's worked, and there is just a single wire between those two. In fact, I feel better if we can know that for sure. So we'll log whenever we add a link. If I just go back, if I strip out that test we just added, reload, you'll see all the links get added that we know about. And then I add that link, it's clear. So now when I detach this node, we would expect one link to get added, but I've removed the code to do that. So yeah, it's added two wires Yeah, and that's another problem. Okay, but if I do that, add in that link, clear it, and do the detach again. There you can see it's only added one wire. So, okay, that duplicate detection has worked. So here are the list of bugs I've observed as we go. What happens if we have that? And we say, detach this guy. Well, did it? So I got slightly confused with what debug happened when. So yeah, so if we do this and then detach this node with the focus in the right place, yeah, it's done an add link because it's added that link. Trouble is, that link already exists. Yeah, all of this stems. Life would be easier if this add link provided sort of the deduplication, but it doesn't, and that's quite a significant change to the API to do that. Yeah, but we ought to do it. Okay. Yeah, if we're saying we should do it, we should do it. Just look at in fact, we can do this pretty efficiently. So once we've created this link, the existing link, we can do red.nodes.filter link, filter links with an S. And if we pass that link in as the filter, we can say, just as for debug's sake at the moment, existing links dot length. See what that does. Right. Well, let's do the base case. Detach, you can see found 0, which is what it should say, because there wasn't an existing link. Now if I wire that up there, just get rid of that debug. If I do the detach now, cool, you can see it says found 1. All right. So if existing links.length is greater than, well, no, if it equals 0, so only if, screen, that didn't work. Yeah, so if we don't find an existing link, then add it. Okay. Oh, excuse me. Right. So that's fixed that buglet, although we're still only dealing with single node cases. This whole Huh? Okay, something... That was weird. Was that just an artifact of... Oh yeah, no, sorry, that was an artifact of not having the late... Yeah, don't worry. Ignore me. Something weird happened there, but I know why it happened, and it's 9:10, and all's good. Right, so there's some other buglets that related to the attaching it to the mouse. So if I detach that node and I move it down here, this mode we're in, we call it import dragging because it is currently only used when you're importing a new flow. And because of that, there are some assumptions, such as pressing escape cancels the import. So if I press escape now, it's cancelled the import, but we're now in a slightly funky state because, well, that node definitely exists and it's not been undone. And rather than... But what it has done is it's... Oh, I know what it's done. Very cleverly. When you cancel import dragging state, it calls undo on the history stack because that would undo the import you've just done. But in our case, hitting escape, if you do by doing an undo at this point in time, it undoes the detach. So the wires end up back where they were. Rather than dropping the node wherever you happen to have moved the mouse. So that's a little weird. And because it mucks... what does the redo history then? Where does that end up? Let's try that. If we detach, drop it there. If I undo it and redo it, okay, that works. So just put it back on, do the detach, hit escape. Now if I do a redo, okay, yeah, it's redone the detach, but left the mouse, left the node where it is. It's all a bit weird. I don't know. This does feel like one of those actions it needs a bit more playing with just to get a feel for it. Well, I think, Cliffo, the weird bit isn't necessarily that it does the undo, because arguably fair enough, but if I hit escape, the problem is it's undoing it but leaving this node wherever it happens to be, rather than undoing the move that has also happened. So yeah, I need to think about how to make that work based on how the import dragging state operates. And then yeah, there's this stuff we started doing around multiple selection of nodes and just trying to wrap my head round what's the right... Yeah, if I try and detach this set of nodes, how do we figure out what the right set of nodes to reconnect is? Yeah, so all in all, there is definitely a bit more work to do on this feature, but this was a decent start. It's 9:15. I don't want to be late tonight, so I'm gonna wrap this one up for now, and I'll poke around a bit more at this during the week. The plans, if you pay attention to the Node-RED release schedule, does have 2.2 release planned for end of this month. So if we're going to have 2.2 by the end of this month, then we need to get the beta out sooner rather than later. There's not a huge amount of new headline features in this release. It's going to be a fairly light new feature release, but a bunch of this work we've been doing around selecting multiple links and lots of little usability things like that will be in there. I would like to try and get this detach action in a good enough state for the beta that on later this week. Just depends on workload for everything else. There are a couple of interesting wiring accelerators that I want to play around with as well, which normally I would try and save for the live stream, but it kind of depends if I want to get them in the beta for Thursday or not, or not, who knows. But yeah, but we're going to leave it there. So as ever, thanks everyone for joining. Welcome back to the new year of streaming. I hope this is interesting. As ever, I think there's lots of cool stuff to be done still. Plenty of cool stuff to be done. But yeah, as ever, if anyone's inspired to get more involved and play with some of the stuff themselves, do come join us in Slack, come say hi, and more than happy to help people get started with contributing to some of this stuff. So do keep that in mind. Otherwise, have a great week. Do like, subscribe, follow, and all that stuff, because, that's nice. And it's tea time. So good night all. I will see you next time. Bye now.